Sometimes the data is not perfect. Almost all the time, the data is not perfect. And so as you're shaping your solution, that's where your experience and your gut comes in. We use data to define problems, and we use our gut to shape solutions. Mic drop. I think that's basically it. I think you start there.
In today's world, how does a brand break through the noise and become iconic? Join me, Jason Harris, as I speak with the world's leading marketing experts about how they use soul and science to build an iconic brand. Think of it as EQ meeting IQ. So let's lock in and together fast forward our marketing minds on the Soul and Science podcast. Welcome to the Soul and Science podcast. Today I'm joined by Eric Petitt, CMO at Glassdoor, a leader who spent over 2 decades shaping brands from Mozilla to Leapfrog to today, one of the most trusted names in workplace culture. In a world where AI is transforming marketing roles faster than ever before, Eric will share with us how he's helping teams stay resilient, creative, and unmistakably human. So we're going to explore how to build a meaningful career in the modern era. Welcome to the podcast, Eric.
Yeah, great to meet you, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Likewise. Eric, you've been in the tech game for a while. I think you've been at Glassdoor now 6 or 7 years. Can you tell me a little bit about your career and how it started and how you got into marketing?
Yeah, I didn't know I was going to be in tech, like a lot of your guests. Didn't know I was going to be in marketing. I've always been attracted to work on things that are making the world a little bit better. And but way back in college, it started with I got excited about building homes. I wanted to be an architect.
Oh, cool.
And I got into college and I learned about urban studies and cities and how places really affect our behavior and how how it really kind of changes the way we live and feel. So I wanted to build better places. So I had this idea of urban planning. Super nerdy. But then I learned what those jobs were like. And I heard that they were going to be pretty slow moving, and it felt like it wasn't going to be right for me, and a little concerned I was going to be designing golf courses.
That sounds super fun, actually.
For me, a little less so. Felt like it might be slow, but I think this interest in human behavior and how we create meaning and how we create places and how they affect us somehow led me into a marketing world.
Yeah, so that kind of idea of environment, right, which kind of can be a physical environment, or it can be your kind of mental, physical environment and your desires. That's kind of a little bit connected, right? But basically how things affect people was your kind of driving interest.
Yeah, I think so. And how we create meaning and how we kind of navigate through the world and what impacts us and what changes us. So it was kind of an intellectual dive into how people work. And it got me into brand strategy consulting after college, and then went to business school at Berkeley, came out to the West Coast, was really drawn to mission-driven tech, worked at Leapfrog, an educational toy company, and then led 2 startup marketing teams at Inkling and LiveScribe, kind of, again, in educational tech. And then found Mozilla, fascinated by Mozilla. It's a, kind of a nonprofit organization that's focused on keeping the web free and open. And then Glassdoor. And I feel super blessed to be at Glassdoor. It's we're involved in a really important part in people's lives. We help millions of people every year zero in on the next step in their career. And we really believe in this idea of shining a light on companies through transparency to make workplaces and work life for individuals a little bit better. So, it's been really fun run. It's been, I feel very privileged to work on companies that have kind of a mission-driven component to them. And that's why I'm at Glassdoor.
Kind of as a side note, in a way, Firefox is the internet's urban planning, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
It's how
I guess so. We're trying to create. Yeah, it's a place for sure where we're trying to where we really working to keep the internet free and open.
I like that. And so with Leapfrog and then beyond, you're pairing tech with the companies you work for have to have some higher purpose or higher mission.
That's been a really important filter for me. I feel privileged to be able to do that because it's not something we all get to do. But it's exciting because it helps you get up every day and get excited about what you're working on. But it's also really interesting from a marketing standpoint and a brand standpoint because when you have a purpose driven brand, you obviously have so much you get to play with. You have another dimension that you can lean into when you're trying to connect with people.
And how does Glassdoor in particular balance the capitalistic side of it with the mission side of it?
Yeah, I mean, we are unapologetically worker first. We really believe in giving voice to workers, providing transparency about what's happening in the workplace. And so that's like where we get that's if we're creating value, it's because we're doing that. And it allows us to have a really unique view into like what's happening in the world of work. And the last couple of years have been crazy in that way. A lot of interesting dynamics between employees and employers that we get to see through our data.
And tell me how the business operates. Like, how does the business make money? Tell me a little bit of how it runs.
Yeah, I mean, we're free to job seekers and to workers. They can come to Glassdoor. They can get a perspective about what it's really like at a company. What's the perspective on the CEO? They can join conversations, relevant to their industry or passions they have. So totally free to the user. And then on the employer side, we help them tell their story. So we give them insights about, what employees or workers think about them. We allow them to join the conversation about their brand. As brands are not monolithic. They're not one way. They're conversations, and we help companies see that. And they can also sponsor jobs on Glassdoor, and so we can monetize through that as well.
What gives you hope for the job market, and what are you afraid of, or what are you
Okay.
what are you worried about?
All right, let's talk about the worry first, because we are coming out of the before times, before COVID, and then we're into COVID, and we've had a rough couple years in many industries for workers. Glassdoor just launched this workplace trends report a couple weeks ago. We do this every year. We look at millions of reviews. We look at the conversations that are happening on Glassdoor, and you're seeing this kind of like increasing disconnect between employees and employers in the data. So like we're seeing the word disconnect is up 24% year over year in reviews. Like the word misalignment is up over 100%. The word distrust is up, I don't know, 26% this year. So you're feeling this like pulling apart between employees and employers. In my industry and many others, there's this like idea of forever layoffs that seems to be happening. These constant pinpricks, where people are feeling like the company is gradually trying to shrink in size. So that's hard. Like there's a lot of pressure on people today. I think as much as we think about AI as being the driver of it, the data kind of says that employees are more upset about how they're being led by humans than they are about how they're being replaced by machines, at least at this point. So that's kind of like it's interesting right now. It's hard to see. On the optimistic side, this is a time where I think in a lot of disciplines, you could never be more. And I think it's really true for marketing too. Like this is a time where the tools, the AI that's enabling us, the changes happening in the workplace, the changes happening in marketing, can superpower you in a lot of ways. If you are in a position to do that and you're in a resilient kind of state to be able to weather this change.
I love that. So, how do you define resilience in today's kind of marketing career? What do you think? What do you think that looks like?
Yeah, I mean, I think to start, like let's just talk about the what's happening right now, because it is tough. Like there's a lot of change that we're feeling as marketers. I'm not sure there's a role in marketing that isn't flipping on its head right now. We Our sister brand Indeed also did some pretty cool research on the roles that are most likely to be impacted by AI. And the top three roles were software engineers, accountants, and marketers. So, like, we can be glad we're not software engineers or accountants, but we're way up there on the list of, categories that are going through change. The report showed that like 70% of skills in our roles could be replaced by AI over the next couple of years. And whether or not that number ends up kind of being true, um, what I've been experiencing is the routine tasks of marketing are kind of going away. Like the creative production, the ad variants, the basic copywriting, the localization, and so on. Like the floor is just rising for us as marketers. And when the floor rises, we feel a lot of change. Like we're feeling this teams are shrinking, timelines are speeding up, the volume of work's increasing. It's a massive adjustment for marketers. So that's the downside.
I'm a little surprised about that. Well, not really being in the field, you hear about it
Yeah,
all the time. But unlike accounting, for example, where you're like, how do I get it to add up to the right number? I'm simplifying, of course. There's a lot
yeah,
of
sure.
nuance to it, but there's taste and craft and
Yeah,
creativity, which you can't
yes,
necessarily, figure out
right,
with zeros and ones. So I'm that
right,
part I'm a little surprised about because there's a lot of nuance and personal preference and
yes,
subjectivity to marketing.
yeah. And I think it's like a great segue into what we need to do as marketers to be more resilient. Um, I kind of think of three things. They're kind of first order principles. They're probably always true, but I would say as a marketer to be resilient today, you need to stretch what you know. You need to know how to think, how you think, and you need to share really completely who you are at work. So, like to me, those are like the three things that help you weather this moment and stay resilient.
So let's break them down. Um,
Yeah,
stretch what you know.
yeah. I mean, we talk about stretching a lot in the marketing team at Glassdoor. This idea of being T-shaped. Like you need to have that one core discipline that brought you into marketing. Maybe you're a PR manager or social media or whatever you started at. But you also need to build breadth. You can't, in my industry, just be a PR manager anymore. You can't just be a channel manager, a copywriter. You really can't just stay in your lane. And so you got to pick the adjacency to your world. Is it social media? Is it AO? And find ways to like widen your base. Because we are seeing, at least in my industry, that the marketers that are going to thrive, they're going to be doing a broader set of skills. Like the breadth is going to be one of their defenses against obsolescence.
Okay. So breadth of skills, know how you think.
Know how you think. I mean, for me, um, there's like three general archetypes of marketers. You've got your strategists, you've got your creators, and you've got your builders. The strategists they can see the forest for the trees. They can understand how to connect your marketing machine to an outcome, set the destination. Your creators, they can find the way, right? They're the ones who are going to figure out how to get over the walls and around them and under them and tell the story that gets you there. And then the builders are often overlooked, I think, in marketing. And those are the ones that are going to make it happen. They're going to make the trains run on time. They're going to optimize the operation, build the growth loops, and sort of build the capability to get there. So we have that at Glassdoor. We've got strategists, creators, and builders, and know what you are and double down on it. Like I think a resilient marketer knows where they add value and they double down in that area. They're not trying to be great at everything. They know their way of thinking and they invest in it. And then maybe they're using partners or AI to kind of find ways to enable the other two components of their story.
This is really insightful because when I first kind of heard the T-shaped idea, I was like, oh, so does that mean an executor has to learn how to come up with the idea? Or if you have an idea, you got to come up with a strategy. It's not that. It's that within that, the way you think,
Yeah.
whether it's, someone who's like, I know how to pull this off, or someone who's like, let me look at the information and come up with the idea. It's more about taking that skill and bringing it to more areas than changing the way you, right?
I think so. I think there's a difference between like what you know, like your craft, your discipline, your craft, and how you think, and like how you create value and how you solve problems. And so I think they're different. And then the third piece,
Share who you are. Yeah.
sharing who you are. Yeah. And so like this is the you were talking about this earlier. This is the really having the confidence to share your conviction, to express your character, right? This is like the conviction to share what you believe, to share your judgment and your taste, to be a compass, to be a leader, to like share your own version of bold and weird. I think it's super important right now. That's something AI can't replace. And then the character side, you've been CEO of Mechanism, founded it. You probably experienced this. Like I feel like what typically the driving factor to someone's growth as a marketer is less the skills they have and more their own like EQ. Like how good of a work partner are they? How well do they really know themselves? How persistent, how flexible? Like to me, those components of character, like the soft skills, those are like the hard skills of the future. Those are the things that are really going to differentiate you more and more, I think, over time.
I love that. We started a company with a series of values. One of them is bring your weird, which is show up how you are. It's exactly what you're talking about, which
Yeah.
does make a massive difference in how people react to you based on, not having your like work persona and then your actual persona, but, kind of blending that. What I like about these three, I almost would do it. Who you are is foundational. How you think is the next step up, and then you're got to stretch.
Mm-hmm.
It
I
almost
like that.
starts with like the building blocks is who you are as a
Yeah.
person. You
Yeah.
can think in one of these three ways, which I totally agree with, and then you become that T type of
Yeah.
worker.
I love it.
That's really really valuable because it's very hard to take a complex, hard to define career work environment and then come up with those like structures which are really help you navigate it because a lot of times you can kind of get lost.
I mean, I think it's a hard time to be a marketer, but if you go into it with some intention, and you have a little bit of a framework, I think it can help. And it did make me think about your podcast because it is like soul and science, right? It's like this combination of really leaning into who you are, really being confident and building the ability for you to share it, and then also making yourself superhuman. Like the science as well is critical to us as we learn how to leverage AI.
Organizational design and team structure is changing. How are you shaping your teams to compete in that new environment?
Yeah, I mean, I think across all kinds of industries, the sense I'm getting is marketing teams are just trying to speed up. They're trying to move faster because they feel like the world is moving faster and they've got to keep up with it. And I think the way you deal with that probably depends on the company you're at. At Glassdoor, we're a marketplace. We have both B2B customers and a B2C audience. We got 45 people in marketing, so we've got to cover a ton of ground. And I guess the journey for us was a couple of years ago. We felt like we had to move faster. Our old way of working, it just wasn't working. We were kind of siloed, so we blew up that kind of assembly line silo structure, and we no longer primarily organize by discipline. So we no longer like think about discipline as our primary organizational structure. We're organized by outcome now. So we have 4 outcome-based teams. They're basically like mini marketing teams. They're focused on the biggest company goals. They each have different sets of skills of players on each team. And we've got one team that's thinking about how do we drive brand consideration for a Glassdoor? Another one is how do we drive user growth? A third around enterprise relationships. And in our case, a fourth around like our own transformation as an organization. So like, I think that I think our team, at least in tech, mid-sized internet-based company, needs to be organized to audience outcomes. So that's a starting point.
What are some unique human traits that technology won't replicate? I know you've described marketing as becoming superhuman. Obviously, AI is important for every field, really, but we're focused on marketing here. But what do you think technology won't replace or won't replicate?
Yeah, I go back to character and conviction, like what you believe and, sharing your unique perspective, your taste, your judgment. I think that's foundational. And then I think the thing that might be getting overlooked a little bit today is your character. Like, how well do you work with people? How flexible are you? How persistent and resilient are you? I think those are key skills that I think are just going to be more important because you're going to have more people with a broader scope who really need to connect with other people to to move an effort forward. So I think those two skills are really core, and they take work, right? Like I'm going to be 50 in a few months. I'm still working on those things. Like those are really hard things.
How are you feeling about turning 50?
Um, I feel like I'm still around 14 to 18 years old. So I don't really, I mean, other than I could feel a little sore in the morning when I wake up.
uh,
And my kids think I'm a dork. I'm feeling pretty good about
I
it.
don't know any 14-year-olds that are like, share who you are and throwing
That's
around
true.
wisdom like that,
That's fair. That's fair.
I
That's
know what you
fair.
mean. I feel the same way. I feel like,
Yeah. Well, my kids will watch this and they'll still tell me that, Dad, you're such a dork. But yeah. But thank you for saying that. I'm going to show that to them.
at least they'll watch it.
Yeah. That's right.
Does your team, you have 45 people, do they see AI? How do you get them comfortable with it?
Yeah. I think you got to make it fun.
Okay.
You got to figure out a way how to get hands on keyboards. And you got to move away from like, oh, I feel like this is happening to me to look what I can do with this. Like, what can I try?
Yeah.
And we've gone through that journey, and I'm super proud of how the team has just rapidly kind of like grabbed this. We had a hackathon last week in Austin.
Oh, cool.
So we brought our creative team together. We're all remote, so it's special for us to be together. And we took a couple weeks before to build a brief focused on creating video spots for a campaign in January. And we took 3 days and we built 5 pretty great concepts that are like 80 or 90% there. So we got our hands really dirty. We tried to create a safe space, low risk environment. Like, let's just give this a go. Let's get all the tools, try them out. And I think you just got to create those opportunities for people to experiment, have fun, fail. And you can, and by the way, thanks to your team, Mechanism helped give us a little training as we got into it. It really helped us make the most of the week.
I love that. That's so cool. What's one thing that you've learned about your own creativity since AI entered your workflow or your space, or maybe one way that it impacted your role as CMO?
Yeah. I think the one thing I've remembered is that I really benefit through dialogue. So like I'm working remotely, having the verbal function on Gemini or ChatGPT to just kind of hash out ideas, I find super helpful. If I'm like trying out new things and new ideas, and I can just kind of yak back and forth, I actually find that really valuable. So I've learned that I need to verbalize my creativity. I need to work through ideas with people, and so I think my team is happy that I have a little bit of that, so I don't bug them too much. But it's replaced some of the hallway conversations that we used to have in the office. With just being able to brainstorm and generate through some of these tools.
That's so much better, right? Than like typing, waiting for a
Yeah,
response. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, it
having
totally
that
is.
dialogue part that's pretty amazing. Like it's pretty
Do you use that as well?
I do. Yeah. It's pretty transformative. I use it when I'm like stuck or it won't come to me, like an answer won't come to me. And then I kind of do that like repartee and it kind of makes you think differently, you know?
Yeah, and sometimes you kind of need like the garbage in, garbage out just to get out of a rut
Yeah.
to work through stuff. But it's interesting. See how it evolves.
When do you know that it's time to make a marketing decision based on science or based on soul?
I believe we use data to define problems, and we use our gut to shape solutions. Um, Mic drop. I think that's basically it. Like I think
I
you
like
start
that.
there.
Yeah.
Obviously, sometimes the data is not perfect. Almost all the time, the data is not perfect. And so, as you're shaping your solution, that's where your experience and your gut comes in. But I think it starts with defining the problem through data and then using your gut to shape the solution.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. If you were designing a marketing team from scratch today, would you design it similarly to the way you're structured now? Because you just went through like a bit of a reorg. Is that the kind of future proof way of designing it?
Yeah, I think we're in a pretty good spot right now. I think it really depends on the company. Like you want to shape the org to fit the needs of the business, and every business has a different set of needs. I do think that one of the difficult things is I think marketing orgs are going to be more diamond shaped than sort of like pyramid shaped in the future. And so, like we have these. A lot of marketing orgs have a lot of entry level people, and I wonder how that's going to evolve because I do think some of those entry level roles are more and more of those tasks are able to be you're able to leverage AI to tackle. So what does that mean for someone who's early career? I think is a challenge. Can you create a marketing org where you're creating that opportunity for early career people as well? Because you want that energy, right? You want that digital native person. You want that fresh perspective. So how do you do that? I think is one of the challenges. Um, yeah, I think you need to have a really agile workforce, like we talked about. You've got to think about a T-shaped growth mindset oriented team. Um, I do think you're going to see more and more marketing teams organized around objectives instead of by department because these lines between some of these like roles are thinning a little bit over time, at least in tech.
Do you think aligning by discipline versus objective creates less collaboration or less marching to the same end goal and more competition that's unnecessary?
I mean, I think moving into objective based teams helps you collaborate better.
Yeah.
I mean, for me as a leader, I can see our bets really clearly. What are we working on? How are we resourced to it? Um, and how are we prioritizing it? So that's been really helpful. Um, I think for folks on the team, if it's working, it's allowing more shared ownership on like the top line goal, where everybody knows exactly what they're trying to achieve, and it's a business objective versus a maybe a tactical goal. And I think for the marketer, it is a chance to work with people who are outside of your discipline more. It's a chance to broaden your skills, and it's a chance to get more strategic oxygen because you can see like, okay, what is this in service of? So it's not right for every org for sure. I think for us, for our size, it's right. It allows us to be flexible, more outcome driven. It allows us to work faster. But it does really depend on the org for sure.
This just kind of came to me when we were talking about the purpose of Glassdoor and the idea of like making work life better, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
that that whole purpose driven
yeah.
kind of communal idea. How do you measure if you're chipping away at that?
That's such a great question. I don't think we have a good answer to that yet. Like we actually talked about it. We marketing led this kind of think of our mission a couple of years ago, and we asked ourselves, can we measure our progress towards making work life better? I don't think we have a great answer. We can look at um, the number of positive job outcomes we create for people. We can look at maybe how overall company ratings and reviews reflect healthier workplace cultures. But that's a good one. I don't think we have a great answer to it yet.
Well, one obvious answer, if I can, is
Please, I'd love the idea.
you're creating like employers, for example, would not have information if you didn't
Yeah,
exist, right? They wouldn't have impartial information, right? Knowledge and data is one sort of certainly a huge way that's making work life better because uh, employers, leaders, they have to think, okay, what are they saying? How can I address it? How can I get better? For employees, it's helping because they know what they're walking into. So I don't know how you measure it. Like we did 5% improved on work life, across the globe, but it does seem like there's a world with a Glassdoor, without Glassdoor, right? It's certainly better with it.
yeah, and maybe there's some kind of we've toyed with the ideas. There's some kind of transparency index, like how well can we see um, into what's happening across organizations, and shining a light on organizations to enable um, workers to have real visibility into what it would be like to work there.
Okay, back to your diamond shape, because I do believe that workforces will largely be moving towards that shape. You need fewer people at the top, you need fewer, maybe newer people that you're training. How should leaders think about mentoring the next generation and the generation after that if the structure might be different?
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything really new, but I think there's a lot of things we still need to do better. Are we being really transparent as a leader about strengths and opportunities? When we're being kind, we talk about being kind as being direct at Glassdoor. Are we being direct? Are we really helping somebody through not just the what of their work, but like the how of their work, and what impact they're having on the people around them? So I think coaching soft skills and recognizing that they are differentiators is a good place to start. Um, how do you help somebody really work through that, and maybe how do you incentivize that too?
I love that. We have a phrase, clear is kind.
Love that.
And it's sort of the same thing that well, I'm not saying we follow it all the time, but
Yeah,
I think that philosophy is like, when you are not transparent and you think someone's going to figure it out on their own, that's not being kind.
yeah.
You know,
It's really hard, but it's super important.
what is a business challenge that keeps you up at night?
Yeah, I mean, a company like us, so internet-based company, mid-sized tech, it's distribution, right? SEO is a big part of our distribution strategy. We think of distribution in that way, and SEO is changing greatly. So, like for internet-based companies like us, we've got to reinvent distribution and how people find us. How do we capture demand, and how do we generate demand? And so we think more and more about like how do we drive brand intent, which has historically been um, a little bit less of a focus for us, but that needs to be a bigger part of our puzzle moving forward. In addition to like how do we really drive retention as a marketing team, and then how do we really clearly differentiate ourselves so when a worker is thinking, what's the next step in my career, they come right to Glassdoor.
Because you do have a lot of advantages, right? Like you're in a competitive environment, but you
Yeah.
really have something that's unique and different, right?
We do. I mean, and we've got human conversations, right? And in this world where we're having a lot of synthetic conversations, I think a lot of people, especially when it's something really critical to their life, like their career, they want to go like farm to table. They want to know from the source, like what is that employee really thinking at that company? What would it really be like to shift careers to this other industry? And I think that that human conversation, that human connection is a really important sort of counterbalance to all this power that AI can give us.
How many, would you say studies you do, annual studies you guys do?
Oh, I mean, we're constantly coming out. We have an incredible little econ team. Our chief economist, Daniel Zhao, does an amazing job. We're constantly coming out with stuff every month. We probably have 3 or 4 big ones. The biggest one in January is our best places to work study, which is the only one that is truly based on employee feedback out there. So that's core for us. That's a place where we can help people help shine a light on companies that are doing a great job. And so we're excited about that in January.
Do you have a mantra or quote that you think about or that you come back to?
I know you always ask the question. I struggle with it. Kind of goes back to our talk on resilience. It's maybe not the most positive framed mantra, but I was thinking about my kids and 3 kids. They're one of the things that I will hear them say is, "Dad, I'm bored," and I think about what my father-in-law used to say. He's kind of a hero of mine, and he used to say, "Only boring people are bored."
Oh
And
my
right, because curiosity is a choice, right? And curiosity builds resilience. And he was a Nebraska farm boy, grew up dirt poor, no dad. He went into the military, got out, became a PhD chemist, did all this amazing stuff. And so he just epitomized the stretch. He was brave. He was curious. He was T-shaped. He leaned in, right? And I think that's we're very privileged to work in marketing. This is a pretty cushy gig for us, as much as we have bad days. And we can remember that there's really no reason for us to be bored right now. There's so much change going on and so much exciting stuff to lean into.
Well, thank you so much for your wisdom. I think you have a really unique point of view on work-life area, on marketing in general, because of your position at Glassdoor. And I love that you've chosen to marry tech marketing with mission-driven companies throughout your career. I think that's a great thing to strive for. So thanks for sharing your wisdom with us.
Hey, thanks, Jason.
Soul and Science is a Mechanism podcast produced by Maggie Bowles, Ryan Tillotson, and Lily Jablonski. The show is edited by Daniel Ferreira with theme music by Kyle Merritt. And I'm your host, Jason Harris.